Welcome to the Relentless podcast. Today we are talking about the FA Cup fixture, fifth round at home against Leeds. That's happening this Wednesday at 7:30, I believe. Andrew, Leeds are second in the championship. They have 72 points. They've won 22 games, drawn six, lost six, and they did recently beat Leicester, who are sitting top of the table the other week, last game basically, which narrowed the gap from I think it was now 78 and 72 points respectively. Their last six fixtures include 3-1 win against Leicester. They beat Plymouth 2-0, beat Swansea 4-0, beat Rotherham 3-0, beat Plymouth again, but that was the FA Cup fourth round replay 4-1, and beat Bristol 1-0. They were in the Premier League last year. They are expected to come up again this year because of the form that they're on. What are you expecting from this game, especially after the loss that we've just taken again against Liverpool in another domestic cup?
I think this is a dangerous one for us on the basis of how knackered all our players are.
Yeah.
We don't have a lot off the bench that we can stick in there to cover. I think it's a good game to give Casadei a go because I think he would have played Leeds earlier in the season.
I think he's cup tied.
Oh fuck!
I think honestly, I think he's cup tied in both domestic cups.
He probably is. Which is a pain in the arse because it would have been a really good game for him to play in.
It's a game I think we need him in, if I'm brutally
Yeah,
honest. He said, you know, I mean, Connor limped off. I've not heard anything with injuries. I'm hoping that is just fatigue. Um, and while we're on the subject of fatigue and injuries, as far as I'm aware, we still have Thiago Silva, Cucurella, Chukwuemeka, Ugo Chukwu, Lavia, James, and Fofana injured. I mean, that's three midfielders still on the injury list
out of six. Well, that's seven because we've
out of
got
seven. I mean,
Casadei.
we've got three midfielders and four defenders on the injury list. The only good news is Buddy Shield's now off of it, and Chaloba is now off of it. So at least there is a bit of cover there, um, but not an awful lot.
Yeah, I think maybe they have to play. I don't know. It depends massively on how well these players have got through that game. I think Alfred Gilchrist is probably
Good shout.
enough, good enough to be given a chance in this game. There's probably some other youngsters. I didn't recognise a lot of the youngsters on the bench against Liverpool, which I thought was surprising. Other than from Football Manager, where I know they're in the youth system, but I don't actually know they aren't ones that I recognise from being on the bench in earlier games, which I
No,
found slightly bizarre. Huh?
that Tavernarian. I was like, who
Yeah.
is that? Never heard that one before.
Jimmy Toruri and yeah, just one on Football Manager that I see, but swiftly usually gets sold because his potential is not very high. Rather than like a
Little tactics and stats there for any Championship Manager fans. I could do with a few myself.
Football Manager now, thank you. Um, yeah, so I think maybe Trev starts that game to give Dizazi a break.
I mean,
I think we might
he's
be able
played
to.
every game. He's played every minute of every game. Dizazi.
Recently, he must have done, yeah.
No, he's not. Apparently, he's not missed it. I keep hearing it. He's not missed a game.
Really? Very
Yeah.
surprising. Um, Sums up our season, really, doesn't it?
The guy we bought because of an injury crisis is the only one who has actually been able to stay fit. And to
Yeah.
be fair, I think he has improved throughout the season. But still.
Yeah, I don't think he was particularly great against Liverpool, but he was obviously great against City. He's not getting worse, which is good, but he's still just got
God help us.
the mistakes in him. Well, I think it's a good sign on the basis of actually how ropey it was for him at the start.
He
That
was playing right back a lot as well.
he's still improving and he's his mentality is obviously at a level where he can keep his head and keep going and keep moving forward. I suppose part of the help is the fact that he's played every game, so that he hasn't been dropped. He hasn't lost confidence from not getting minutes. Maybe that's helped. Anyway,
Just
yeah, I think I'm
quickly,
more worried about fatigue and potential injuries to players that like Chilwell that played a ridiculous amount of minutes for someone that hasn't been back for that long, a month and a half maybe.
yeah.
Um, yeah, and there was a lot of players that were obviously struggling at the end of that game. There's only 2.5 days in between the games, so difficult. And Leeds aren't mugs, and they're quick.
They are pacey. Um,
So
I
not be an
too.
easy one.
Say again.
Not be an easy one.
No, I mean I too share your sentiment about being worried about this game. I mean, I think to be fair, even if we'd got the goal in the last 2 minutes of added time or one on penalties, I'd still be worried about this game to a certain extent, just because again of the fatigue. Whereas this is not just physical fatigue that we have to bear in mind now. This is also mental fatigue. Uh
I think I'd be more worried about it if we won it.
oh,
Because I think there's an element of relax, you celebrate, you do whatever. Whereas I think when we've lost it, the only way that you can really like get over that is to go again and win the next game. Um, I think if they were like celebrating all night and drinking and whatever, the recovery's gonna be worse.
I don't think they would have been allowed to, if I'm brutally
Still,
honest. Not to the extent where it would have been a big one, just because they have the game against Wednesday, and I think Poch and even the club and probably the players know as well that the domestic trophies are our only saving grace now this season.
but I think if we won the Carabao Cup, the season over effectively. You go right. Well, we've got a place in Europe done.
Which I've heard that we would have boycotted
Yeah,
for
in theory.
financial fair play reasons, which then at least with the FA Cup, we'd get a place in the middle tier now of Europe, which I don't know what that does for
Oh,
us.
is that how it works?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah. So if we win the FA Cup, we would go into the Europa League. Yeah.
I didn't realise that the League Cup changed because it was originally Europa League, but they must have downgraded that at some point. Europa
Yes.
Conference League, like historically, like years ago, it was Europa League. Fine, yeah. I mean, it is what it is. So I'm hoping for certain players to be given a chance that haven't been given a chance.
Oh, I like this. Shall we go into the starting 11s then, and you can tell us which players you would like to see be given a chance? Okay, Andrew, your starting 11 for Leeds at home in the FA Cup.
I'll just stick Petrovic in goal. I don't think he's. I assume you don't get too fatigued as a goalkeeper. I'm happy to be told I'm wrong, but I'm
No,
assuming
I
he can play.
agree.
I
I
could see
think
Sanchez being given it, but
that's what I was going to say. That would just be for, excuse me, minutes because he's come back. But yeah,
um, Trevor at centre back with. You can still drag him in. Okay. Who's fit? Is
Paddy
Bashir fit?
Shill's fit. Colwell, Dizazia fit. Gilchrist is
Let's
fit.
let's start Badashil and probably give him 45 minutes. I'll stick Alfie Gilchrist at centre back. Oh, right back, sorry. And I'll stick, you don't have him, Ishi Samuel Smith at left back. I hope he's left footed. He's playing left centre back for the under 21s the other week. But he is someone that's hardly thought of that we bought from Everton. And I'd like to see him play. Midfield, fuck. I mean, unfortunately, it is gonna have to be. It's gonna have to be Caicedo, Enzo, and I'll shove in Leo Castledine, even though he's probably more of a winger.
It's the usual suspects midfield, then, yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's yeah, Caicedo, Enzo, and Leo Castledine, which is another blank for the forward. Just because I'd like to see him play more than anything.
What here?
Um,
Yeah,
yeah, I think he's technically more of a winger,
I
but
thought he was as well. Yeah,
I think he's. I think a lot of the ones that we've got kind of play everywhere, and they just fit him in. In the youth ranks, so I'll be very surprised if he hasn't played them before. I think purely for fitness fatigue esque reasons, I think I'd go Mudryk, Madueke. And I think they could do with a bit of confidence. And I think I'd start on Kunku up front. I think he didn't have a hell of a lot of minutes compared to some of the others. I think Jackson's probably fit enough to play. Long as I think he went off in the 60th minute or so. So I think out of 120 minutes, probably Jackson, Sterling, and Kunku and Madueke probably. I know Madueke came on an extra time, didn't he?
yeah, he did. Yeah,
I can't remember who was
or
subbed.
towards, or basically at extra time. Yeah, it might have been during the normal time, but quite near the end of the 90 minutes.
Yeah, I wouldn't be against playing Washington either. Actually, I do kind of want to play Washington, but I want Nkunku to get back amongst the goals. So I'm in a little bit in two minds, but I'm going to stick with this.
I actually agree with a lot of what you've done, if that helps. The only thing that I would do is I would drop Castledine and maybe bring him on in the second half. And the reason being is because we've got Washington, I'd put Washington up front and Cuckoo behind him in where you've got Castledine. I agree with giving Mudryk a chance from the start and Noni. And if Mudryk doesn't get involved, like we said previously, that's when you bring on Castledine. And you can play him out wide on the left and in a favoured position. Um, defense wise, so I'm going to quickly do that now. Um, defense wise, I don't think we've got an awful lot of options. I'd love to be able to. I mean, I know he's not defense, but I would love to be able to start Gallagher. Um, but I think he needs a break. Like even Poch said before that game in an interview, he relies on him to do so much of the running around for other players so that they can do what they want to do. You know, he said Palmer. They said Palmer was one of them. He
Yeah, yeah,
he
Palmer
has
is. Palmer
he,
hovers in the lines and tries to intercept the ball,
he needs
while
a break.
Gallagher chases everyone. So
Yeah,
and I think it works quite well when it works. Well, I think against certain teams it works quite well. The ones that aren't particularly great at the back on the ball, but against the better teams, it just doesn't seem to have much of an effect.
yeah, and I mean, I again, I'd like there to be a bit more variety in midfield, but as we said, there's three midfield players injured, so it is
Yeah,
what it is. And the same with the defense. We don't have a spare left back. He's been injured for a fair amount of this season, Cucurella. Um, I agree with Gilchrist. Uh, I like Chalabar. I like for him to show what he can do. He gives others a break. And Badashil, I think, has had a few dodgy games. So again, it gives him the opportunity just to kind of show that he's back and focused. So yeah, I think pretty similar to be fair.
yeah. I think it is as much about rotation as humanly possible. And you're right, midfield we just don't have the
We
option
literally
of.
cannot rotate in certain positions properly. So
There might be some youngsters that are missing, but I feel like centre mids where we've just sort of loaned everyone out.
well, yeah. I mean, that's the other thing. I mean, I'm sure they can always find youngsters, but you know, unfortunately, the players that are fit for us at the moment, or not fit for us, but fit for the club, are on loan.
mm,
So, you know, it's a tough one. Um, what do we need to do in this game? You've already said that Leeds are quite pacey. They like to counter attack. We like to counter attack. Is this another situation? Is this a situation where you feel like we need to make sure that they have more of the ball so that they can't counter attack as much, or do you feel like we could take the game to Leeds and have more possession?
I think we probably need to take the game to Leeds a little bit. I think the downfall of sitting back means that inevitably you give away more set pieces. And I assume Leeds being a championship team, they're relatively good at set pieces. Um, and in theory, we should be able to, even with a weakened team, we should be able to get a decent result and control the game, especially if Caicedo and Enzo are playing. In theory, we should be able to control the game. I also think, from a fatigue perspective, you can, if you're dictating the game, you dictate how much you're running,
Yeah,
and we can then make it more of the players that have fitness and aren't as fatigued can run more, and you use Enzo and Caicedo more as a when they have to, they run and they sort of pick passes and try and move the ball around. Um, and I think the main thing for me is just trying to get through this game unscathed without picking up too many injuries to key players. Like we lose a midfielder in this game and we're absolutely stuffed. Um,
we don't need another replay as well.
yeah, but also don't want to lose. So because I think Luke going out both cups in the same week is pretty bleak, and I think that could be Poch's job.
But again,
Not that I
it's
think it should be, but
no, I agree. The only thing that I would say about Poch, and a couple of people, I've seen a couple of people on Talksport and a couple of other people talk about it, and I have to agree. And I was thinking about this beforehand. They they sort of compared him to Klopp and the differences between him and Klopp. And I did it with Mourinho because obviously there was a big burst about Mourinho not being with Roma anymore. Will we bring him back? And people wanting him back. Klopp and Mourinho's player management, I think, is impeccable in terms of how they rally behind their players. Um, you know, he they both give him confidence, and I can't. You can see that from what Klopp was doing yesterday with every single player that was involved or not involved with this with the team's the squad yesterday. But even when you listen to former players of Mourinho at whatever club, especially the Chelsea boys, they're always saying about how he instills confidence and tells you can do it and just bigs you up basically. I don't think you get that with Poch. Um,
I completely disagree
really?
with the Mourinho point. Now, obviously, Klopp definitely does it. I think Mourinho worked with players back in the day that I think the mentality's changed of the generations. Like the generational mentality is just different. And I
Oh,
think
I
it
agree with
works a
that.
lot better with the players that he had back then. I think Mourinho can very much ruin a dressing room. When things aren't going well, he seems to find scapegoats that he blames for things. And I think that completely destroys the dressing room. I think at times he does not treat players very well at all. I think from what I'm hearing about Poch, where he's having extra training sessions and basically playing Mudryk in like crossbar challenges and stuff, I think he is really trying to help the team. And we've gone through a few bad spells and we've rebounded a number of times. I just don't think that I I think when the problem is you are not putting the ball in the back of the net, I don't think there's much that you can do. We're getting chances. The formation seems to be working. We're not giving away too many chances other than when we make a stupid pass and give the ball away. And I just don't. The only argument you can make is that we should stop trying to pass it out from the back if we're going to make this many mistakes and get it cost us points, which I do blame him for. But at the same time, there's an element of if this is the way that we want to play it, it's one difficult to prove to the board that you don't have the players that you want if we're not seeing those mistakes, and two, they're not really going to get much better at it if they're not practicing it.
Agreed. Yeah, on both those. Yep.
So I just don't think Potter's done a lot wrong, and I think it's a similar one to when Lampard got fired for the first time, where we've had a number of key injuries, and I think for Frank it was less injuries, but specifically players that were quite important to the way that he wanted to play, and we lost a lot of the wingers
Yeah.
that got injured, and a lot of chances fell to Werner, and he didn't put them away. And if he put them away, we win games and we're flying, rather than we don't put the chance away, we're not winning games and we're really struggling. And I think it's just how fickle football is, where there'll be certain games where we play very similarly, but we score the three or four gilt edged chances that we get in the game, and in fact put away more difficult chances than we usually miss. And everyone raves about us and thinks we're amazing. And then the week after, we won't score any of them, or we'll score one and we'll lose 2-1. And you'll go, Chelsea were awful today. You go, well, no, we had a similar amount of chances, just the shots weren't as good. And you kind of go, well, what do you do in that situation?
No, I agree with that. I mean, to be fair, I forgot about Poch doing the crossbar challenge with Madrid. I did know that, and I completely forgot it. So that doesn't help my point. And by no means am I saying Poch should go out. It was just a talking point. I don't think we can afford Poch to go out. And actually, to be fair, was it a couple of former players or a couple of pundits came out and said you could give Pep Guardiola that Chelsea side, and he couldn't do anything with that Chelsea side at the moment. Which
But like even Pep, when he first went to City,
no, but again, we said this.
he struggles.
Klopp did the same thing. He's had what, three finals before they won a trophy? The Europa Champions League, and then the
I think
third
it's the
Champions League they won it, or maybe they went. It was their fourth one because
I
they
think
lost to Madrid twice.
what I saw earlier was they won it. They won it on their third final. I don't know if they had another domestic final or something that they lost, but I think they lost the two European finals first. And I think if Poch isn't the right guy, then we need to find who we think is the right guy and actually just stick with it. Because we've shown that chopping and changing managers doesn't work with the players that we've brought in. And we kind of, especially with this multi-club system, if we're going to do this, then we need to commit to a style of play, commit to bring in players that work with that style of play, or at least we think should work with that style of play, and bring in a manager that wants to play that. But the problem is, I think you almost need to start with the manager. And I think
Yeah,
that's what City and Liverpool have done very well, is they go, this is our man, we're going to back him to the hill. If he has a couple of bad years, it's not like we're doing particularly well anyway. Well, in City's case, they were winning fucking everything anyway. But they knew it would come good, and I think we need to find our manager that we know will come good, or we think will come good, um, and give him a couple of years rather than give him 6 months. Because at the minute, yes, we've been inconsistent, and all of the managers we've had so far, but I think we've we've generally got to a point where you can kind of see it coming together, and for whatever reason we've lost a big game or something, and then we've sacked the manager. And I think that was a main complaint under Potter, where it looked like it was starting to come together a little
yeah.
bit and sacked him. Um,
And again, the amount of injuries he had to deal with,
yeah.
rolling injuries, it was ridiculous.
So even and to be honest, my other thing is, like you say, I think you struggle to get Pep Guardiola to do well with this team, and I don't see a lot. There's not a manager that I am desperate to go out and get that I think we can get. Like the only one that I could see it happening with is Xabi Alonso, but I think
It's Bayern Munich bound.
he's Bayern Munich bound, and I think Liverpool would have had him if they could have done. And I think he's
Yeah,
made a shrewd move to probably go to the slightly easier job
I think it's a great decision.
and get some more managerial years under his belt, get some more experience in a slightly easier situation than Liverpool will be in, because they're obviously competing with City for everything.
Yeah,
So I don't know of a manager that I'm out there going, he would do a significantly better job long term. You either get a short term manager in which Tuchel's been linked back to the club, and you go Tuchel in the short term will probably get more out of the team, but has proven time and time again he's not a long-term manager that you really want to build your club around. He's a manager that can get success, but he rubs people up the wrong way,
Which is
and
what I
at
was
some
also going to
point it
say
will
about
end in
Mourinho.
tears.
I I was going to say the same thing about Mourinho. Like you just, even if you brought Mourinho back, I'm not saying we should. You have no idea how long he will be there for.
I think you do. I think it's max 2.5 years, 3 years. I mean, who's he been at for longer than that? I think everyone was 2.5, 3 years.
Was he not there a little bit longer at Real Madrid?
Maybe, but
Maybe it's the only
marginal.
one that I think he might have been.
It's marginal. So,
Yeah.
and some of them it's because he's had great success and been and moved on,
Yep.
and the rest it's been because he's lost the dressing room or the results haven't gone the way or something's happened, or he's embarrassed the club or whatever the fuck happened. So, I don't think there's a manager out there that I'm confident we can get and has done a good job for a number of years and like Klopp did and challenged Bayern Munich, and you could see him build something, challenge Bayern Munich, won something, and like you can see that there's something there. I don't know a manager around that has done that in recent times and sort of built something from almost nothing and had scraps. And I'm not saying I don't really want to give the perspective that Chelsea are sort of coming from nothing. We've obviously spent a lot of money and we've got some good players, and I think there is the makings of a pretty decent team there. Whether we can go out and spend, I don't know. I do think a striker changes the game. So when I was talking to Jojo in the game, like there was a Diego Costa clip that popped up, and you go, if we had Diego Costa in that team, it's a completely different animal.
Oh yeah, yeah. But loads of people have said that.
So yeah, I think there's a number of positions that we kind of need to tighten up. I think if everyone's back fit, there is a better team there. And I think actually, if everyone's fit, we could solve all of our problems, apart from striker.
Yeah, agreed.
And I think we probably need a slightly better goalkeeper. I don't think Petrovic is a bad keeper, but if we're going to win things, I think we need one that's better.
Yeah, I agree. I was going to ask you that question at some point because I really like him, but I was like, is he number one?
I I think he's a very good keeper, but he's not exceptional. Maybe he'll become exceptional because he's still only 24. But when you look at certain goalkeepers that are exceptional, they make saves that you wouldn't really expect them to make. And I don't think Petrovic really makes saves that you wouldn't expect him to make. But I don't think he makes a lot of mistakes and saves and doesn't save the ones that you think he should be saving.
Yeah, no,
So I think he's
I
just
get what
like a very solid average keeper.
I
But
think he's no, I think he's a bit above average. I'm
I'd say
not saying I'm not saying he's a,
average Premier League keeper. Like I'm not saying average League One keeper. I don't think he's not like a Thibaut Courtois, a Neuer that are just putting out, or like a David De Gea who, while he made a lot of mistakes, was
yeah,
an
but
unbelievable shot stopper.
I agree with what you're saying. My argument is really realistically, how many has he really had to save that are on that level? Is my main point.
You kind of go, well, Crystal Palace's goal. I think Czech he saved in that at half time. He made it sound like he was saving it.
Yeah, I agree with that. Like, it's easy for him to look at this. I'm not going to disrespect Czech for fuck's sake, but it's easy for him to sort of stand there and go, "Oh, well, actually, from this position, you know, da da da." Da. But would he be in the right position there and then? I don't know. I mean, I would put my money on Czech would do better. Of course I would, because look what he's done. But you know, and I agree, he's an exceptional goalkeeper.
While we've said I don't think the Van Dijk header is his fault, it's not top bins, is it? I think a world class
No, I'll
goal
give you that.
gets
I'll give you
finger to
that.
it.
Yeah, I'll give you that.
So is there situations of a world class goalkeeper just gives you that that one save in a big game that you wouldn't expect a goalkeeper to make that gets you over the line.
I'm not disagreeing with you, by the way. As much as I like Petrovic, I do think we still need a better goalkeeper, especially with the way that our defense has been leaky at times.
hmm. I think Man City kind of proved you don't necessarily need the best goalkeeper ever in the world ever. But Edison is a very good goalkeeper. Alisson is an exceptionally good goalkeeper, and it definitely helps. And
Yeah,
it is in the big games in the cup finals that you
yeah.
need it. So I think we still can win stuff, but yeah, I think it would make a big difference. I think having Fafana like a fully fit Fafana in
If
the
he can
form
get
he was
fully
at
fit.
Leicester, I think he changes our team a little bit.
Agreed. That's if he can get fully fit and he can be that same player again.
Yeah, and
It's
we've got a lot
questions.
of players that are like that
And
with
that's
Rich
why I
James
said
and
potentially.
yeah, yeah. So we'll see. I think it's been a pretty rotten season for us in terms of injuries.
Again.
And I think from what I'm hearing, they are improving the medical team and making an effort to fix it. But we almost just need to limp through this season and sort of start again next season and pray that the changes they're making work and we get less of these muscle injuries. You're always going to impact injuries, but we just seem to be getting a lot of muscle injuries and recurring ones to the same players. And I think I've said it before, maybe shifting Reece James into midfield and having him as a holding midfielder might be a better option. And a sort of deep lying long ball because he can play long balls. He's a good tackler. He's strong. He'll win headers.
I'm not against that. We've both agreed on that.
Yeah,
Both agreed on that. My only thing with that is oh, people are like, oh, he's copying Trent Alexander Arnold because that's what he's now trying to do. And I think Reece James is a better right back than Trent because I think he can actually defend. But if it helps Reece stay fit,
yeah.
then
I
absolutely.
personally, I think it's more of a slight round peg in a square hole. Of I don't think it would be his best position, but I would have him more of a holding player, whereas Trent's more of a box to box and still plays right back, but kind of like then goes box to box midfield and inside forward. Whereas I think with Reece James, I'd have him being the deeper one.
Fair. I'd like to see him get forward though, just because he has got a shot on him.
Yeah,
But he can distribute a ball pretty much on a sixpence as well. Um, so fair. Um, don't know where to go from here to be fair, because we've had a massive tangent, so I've got another video to edit.
score predictions.
Score predictions.
I'm just going to go 2-1 because I can't see us keeping a clean sheet. With defenders that probably haven't really played together at all ever. So I'm just going to hope Nkunku's going to get 2.
A brace for Nkunku.
I'm going to hope so.
Can't
And
believe I'm
part of
gonna.
that's just me trying to only jinx one player rather than
No, I get you. I get you. I can't believe I'm gonna do this, but I'm gonna say 1-1, and I'm gonna say it's gonna go to a replay.
fair. Who scores?
I'd like to say Washington, but I don't think he'll actually get the nod to start. So I'm going to give it to Noni.
Nice.
Not that I'm very hopeful about this fixture. Anyway, any other comments that you've got, Andrew, with regards to this game? No.
No.
No. Right. Well, thank you all for watching this episode of the Overland Sea podcast. Let's hope we get a better result in another domestic cup on Wednesday at home to Leeds. Please like, share, comment, follow, subscribe, hit that notification button, and thank you all for watching.